Hamnet is based off of a novel. It's a fictionalized adaptation of William Shakespeare's upbringing into becoming one of the greatest playwrights ever. It's directed by Academy Award-winning Chloe Zhao. Yes, the same Academy Award-winning Chloe Zhao that brought you Nomadland, a former Best Picture winner. Yeah, see, this movie looks fantastic. I knew there was somebody who was really good behind this. Lo and behold, you also have Sam Mendes and Steven Spielberg attached as producers. Go figure. William Shakespeare is played by Paul Mescal in this movie, who you might remember from Gladiator 2 last year. And we follow him and his wife, Agnes. Again, that's a historical inaccuracy. She's played by Jessie Buckley. They celebrate the birth of 3 children, namely their son, Hamnet, played by Jacoby Jupe. But without giving anything away, tragedy strikes, and it inspires Shakespeare to write his timeless masterpiece, Hamlet, often considered by many to be one of the greatest plays ever written. And I'll just tell you guys this much. This story and the way it's presented in Hamnet, more than likely it's only partially true. Case in point, the main female character's name in this is Agnes, William Shakespeare's wife. In real life, her name was Anne Hathaway. No, not that Anne Hathaway. So yeah, already minus points for that historical inaccuracy. But to be fair, a lot of these based on true events movies are not fully historically accurate. They're going to mess around with a few things in the story to dramatize it a little bit. I mean, that's a little bit of a stickler detail. In my eyes, at least it's not the Iron Claw basically eliminating an entire Von Erich brother. At least it's not that egregious in the grand scheme of things. But I will say this much. Chloe Zhao being involved in this movie, the subject matter, if you're into theater, if you love Shakespeare like I do, chances are you are probably going to see this movie anyway. And it was getting a lot of buzz at film festivals, potentially being an Oscar favorite. And yeah, I think it definitely is. In a multitude of different categories, Chloe Zhao definitely will get another nod for Best Director here after she's already won one. And I think this movie is a lot better constructed than Nomadland. Lots of wide, beautiful takes here. The cinematography in this movie is just gorgeous. Lots of wonderful shots that take place in a forest. Lots of greens. Really pops when you watch it in the theater. And the production design, everything that is done in this movie to capture the time period, making you feel like you are in Elizabethan England, the cottages, the costume design, the sets. It is just a beautiful movie to take in. And Chloe Zhao is no stranger to directing some beautiful looking movies. Nomadland is one of them, albeit I think it's a bit overrated in the grand scheme of things. And then you also have Eternals, which again is probably everybody's favorite Marvel movie. It's not. But if you're looking at it on a technical standpoint by itself, in terms of the filmmaking and how the movie looks, Eternals could be in top 5 if we're just judging off of that criteria. And if you're going into this expecting some sort of romance, if you're looking at this trailer and you're thinking, oh, this is about William Shakespeare falling in love with his wife, what could possibly go wrong? A lot of things. This movie is very heavy. If you go into this movie without any sort of tissue or Kleenex at your disposal, you're at a huge disadvantage, because this movie will absolutely rip your heart out in a couple of sequences, especially as it goes with these performances. Jessie Buckley as Agnes, the wife, should absolutely get nominated for Best Actress. I think she's a shoo-in. She is just so emotionally raw. And a lot of these scenes that she has, especially once the tragedy in Shakespeare's family does strike, it's just heartbreaking to watch her go through this stuff. And same thing with Paul Mescal as Shakespeare himself. I think he certainly looks the part. I think he presents himself in a very posh, proper way that Shakespeare should be established as. I mean, unless you're playing it for comedy, then you can do whatever you want with how you portray Shakespeare. One of my favorite musicals of all time, Something Rotten, portrays Shakespeare as this rock god. That is funny. But if you're looking for a serious, dramatized version of Shakespeare's life, Paul Mescal really checks off all the boxes, and I've been a fan of his. I've been a big believer in him ever since I saw him last year in Gladiator 2. Wasn't really all that familiar with him before I saw that movie, and I just can't wait to see what else this guy does. He was so good. And you also have a bit of a family affair in this one. You have brothers Noah and Jacoby Jupe appearing in this as different versions of Hamlet, or Hamnet, I guess you can say. Jacoby plays Shakespeare's real-life son who inspired Hamlet, and this is just such a wonderful child performance here. You could argue that this kid seals the entire movie. And I'm glad that this kid has this movie to his credit as opposed to just playing Michael in the Peter Pan live-action remake a couple years ago. I thought this kid looked familiar, but he was just so riveting to watch. And his older brother Noah appears in this as the Shakespearean actor who plays Hamlet in the last 20 minutes or so of this flick. And Noah does really good. A lot of people who have done Shakespeare on stage, anybody who's played Hamlet, they know that is not an easy role to play. And I think Noah does a really good job with a lot of the monologues here. And that whole ending sequence, which takes place in the Globe, I'm not going to give too much away, but I think that's what this movie is centered all about. It's about when you are grief-stricken, when you're sad. Art is a way to express grief and just be at peace with what happened in your life. Art is a beautiful thing, especially if you're a theater performer like me. You know that that is the biggest empathy gym of any art form. And I think this movie captures that beautifully. It's a very thematically rich movie. It's a very emotionally gut-busting movie. I can't stress that enough. If you're not looking for something sad, Hamnet is probably not the movie for you. But I definitely think it's a shoe-in to win at least a couple of Oscars once the time comes. Once the ceremony is going on, I'm sure we're going to be seeing members of the movie's crew and the cast being honored. It certainly feels like it's one of the strongest movies of 2025. I think it's a movie that really resonated with me. If you're into the theater realm, this is one that'll really resonate with you as well. I will say, though, I don't know if it's going to be my all-time favorite movie of 2025 when it's all said and done, because it does take a little bit for the movie to get going. I do think the first act is a bit slower paced compared to everything else, and I was just kind of waiting for the movie to kick into another gear. And I think once the children are introduced, the movie really picks up. At least that's what it felt like for me. I don't know if I can speak for everybody else, but aside from a few pacing issues and a couple of little editing hiccups that I think happened along the way, Hamnet, I think, is a very, very strong contender to take home a bunch of golden statues. And as historically inaccurate as it still may be, this may be one that will make the Bard proud. I'm going to give Hamnet an A. Beautiful looking movie too. Chloe Zhao really does outdo herself every single time she makes a movie. I can't wait to see what's next. Let me know what you thought of Hamnet. Is this your favorite Chloe Zhao movie? If you're a Shakespeare fanatic, what's your favorite Shakespeare play? It can be comedy, it can be history, it can be tragedy. The Bard's catalog is very robust, so there could be a lot of good answers to that question. And if you want to discuss all these topics in the geeky world and the cinema world with me, hit that subscribe button, tap that thumbs up and that bell icon so that way you don't miss another upload from me. Thank you so much again for your continued support, my friends. Y'all are the best. With all that being said, Back Talk, commence.